Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all well. So here we are. The dawning of a new age, an age of slick production, higher quality, and an age of professionalism. Possibly. You hopefully saw our new pre-show video just now. Let me know what you thought of that in the chat. And there's plenty more fresh new stuff coming too. So don't hold back. Let me know in the chat exactly what you think of the new look and the new format of the show. Just be aware, just be aware, I took the very bold executive decision yesterday to delete the old format entirely. There is no turning back from this point. Now, before we go any further, as you can see, there is a new addition to the backdrop. That new addition is actually a gift sent to us by none other than our friend and our regular contributor, Mr. Gary Muirhead. Gary, you honestly have no idea quite how much that means to me. This show started out of necessity and frankly out of desperation because COVID meant I couldn't do my day job. But over the course of 500 shows, we have actually created a community. I'm still humbled by the fact that anyone actually turns up to watch or listen to this show in the first place. But to then send me gifts, and that is genuinely something that I've wanted for the past 3 years, I'm honestly completely blown away. So thank you again, Gary. It really does mean the world to me. Now, without further ado, I'm going to roll the new look intro and get the show on the road. And no, there is no question of the day. That ship has also sailed. But if you'd like to leave something in the chat, please leave us your biggest pet peeve. I'll get to it later in the show during our new Gripe of the Day section. But for now, here is the new intro. God, I love myself. It is Friday, the 21st of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's new look show, how did we become so desensitized to site fatalities? Blossoming in Japan, and we're throwing shade with gripe. Plus, it's Back to the Future Part 3 as we travel back to see how Volvo once envisaged the future of the wheel loader. And we're going to get to all of that in just a second. Now, at this time, I would normally say, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. You know how the script goes. We don't do that anymore. Instead, we're going to look back to see what historic events took place on this day in history. And I do hope our friend Mr. Hatcher was able to see that, watching along as he currently is. But my mock historic news was that Ken Hatcher has been named Lord of Sprockets. If you're a regular on the show, you'll know precisely what that means. Now, on this day in history, Abraham Lincoln's funeral procession left Washington. Baron Manfred von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron, was shot down and killed over France. Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel hit #1 on the Billboard charts. The pound coin was introduced in the UK. The movie Shrek Forever After premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. And in 2019, a former comedian called Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president of Ukraine. I wonder if he knew what he was letting himself in for. Probably need more interludes that don't feature me, really, don't we? Now, I was hoping to kick off this new look show with something upbeat, something light-hearted, maybe even something entertaining. But ultimately, this is first and foremost a news show. And the output of the show is dictated entirely by what is happening in the field of demolition and construction. And so sadly, rather than heralding the new look of the show with something informative, we must begin with something sad, something frustrating, something that really, really should be out of place in the modern world of demolition and construction. It is my sad duty to once again report a site fatality in the UK demolition industry. A site in Slough now joins Didcot, Redcar, Longannet and many others on a list of places that will be forever inextricably linked with a demolition death. Like each of those previous incidents, the company involved this time was a member of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. This time it was R. Collard Limited. Following hot on the heels of the almost £60 million in fines handed down to NFDC members found to be involved in bid rigging, price fixing and collusion, this latest fatality once again calls into question the NFDC's claim of elite status. But that is for another day. Now, before I go any further, I will state for the record that I like Rob Collard. I have enormous respect for all that he and his company have achieved over the years. I regularly hold up R. Collard as an example of Demolition's commitment to recycling. I've been on a number of R. Collard sites over the years, and in my personal experience, the company runs a tight ship. But what I find remarkable is not the accident itself, but the response of those within the UK demolition industry. When I reported the news yesterday, I received a whole heap of responses on social media. Sad news, said one. Thoughts and prayers are with the family, said a good few others. Those comments were well-intentioned, I'm sure, but they're also trite. They're a cliché. The exact same comments accompanied the deaths of the 4 men killed at Didcot Power Station back in 2016. They accompanied the deaths of 2 workers at Redcar. They accompanied the death of a man killed at Longannet Power Station. And they accompanied the anniversaries of each of those tragedies as well. Thoughts and prayers. Is that it? Is that all we've got? Have we now become so desensitised to demolition deaths that we actually have a go-to phrasebook for just such an occasion? And if we are going to have a phrase with which to respond to a site death, should it not be something like, not again? Why? How is this still happening in this day and age? That is a fucking disgrace. How can we help the family of the deceased? Not after a prolonged and protracted investigation, but now, right now when they need emotional and financial support. Site deaths should not be greeted with sadness. They should not be a trigger for default platitudes. They should be a trigger for anger and for a desire to help. There is a family right now that needs help. Our collective thoughts and prayers will not pay their bills. They will not cover the cost of a funeral, and they will not put food on the table. Legally, companies have a duty of care for their employees in life. Morally, they should have a duty of care for their families in death. Just to be clear, that final comment wasn't aimed at R. Collard. I'd like to think the company will do right by the family of the deceased. However, having spoken to several people impacted by demolition deaths in the past few weeks, such a response is apparently not the norm. Now, that is not how I wanted to start the New Look show, so I'm happy to report that things get a little less serious from here on in. In fact, we'll be right back after this with something that I've introduced purely to ease our collective mood. Let's get one of these up. Cherry blossom. Cherry blossom. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about next. It's a big deal in Japan. In fact, they actually have an annual festival to celebrate its arrival. One of my great regrets in life is the fact that my trip to Japan didn't coincide with the festival or the blossom. Thankfully, however, Volvo are allowing us to enjoy the blossom remotely. Pretty, right? We're going to be throwing shade right after this. We are now heading back to a rainy day at ConExpo to meet one of North America's tilt rotator early adopters, a guy called Alan Shade. I met Alan on the Grip stand where he was demonstrating the company's tilt rotator and a number of other attachments as well. And here, when I can find it, here is what he had to say.
Well, I'm Alan Shade. I'm the owner of Shade Group Inc. We're a construction company and engineering company based out of Ottawa, Ontario. Pretty much like a lot of small companies, a little bit of everything. From land clearing to excavation for new home construction, civil works, as well as grading and drainage works. So we need equipment that's versatile because we are versatile. I've had tilt rotators now for 8 years. I've had other brands. We purchased our first Grip tilt rotator last year, actually. Put on a brand new case shovel and have been absolutely impressed with it. Very smooth, great customer service from Grip, and just a great overall experience. Being able to do jobs which in the past, we would have required a dedicated, for demolition, a dedicated rotating demolition grab. Those are expensive, and it's kind of a one-trick pony. A tilt rotator is useful for precision grading. It's good for excavating. It's good for land clearing work. It's really good for demolition as well with a careful operator. So it's not just a one-trick pony. It's very versatile and can be left on the machine. We typically, compared to a conventional shovel, we see about 30 to 40% increase in productivity over a straight bucket and thumb, which for us, when we're bidding jobs, obviously, we can bid lower than somebody using a bucket and thumb, which means we usually win.
Yeah, probably preaching to the converted this side of the pond, but Alan really was a lovely guy and clearly a huge advocate for the tilt rotator concept. So Alan, if you're watching, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
We are about to complete the set. Back when this show looked very different, yesterday and the day before, we brought you a pair of films from those fine folks at Volvo Construction Equipment. Those two films were made way back in 2009 when they envisaged a future that is yet to be written. The first of those two films featured an excavator. The second, which we showed you yesterday, featured an ADT. But there is a third film in the series, and this one features a wheel loader. So, get ready for the pun of the day. If you're a Harry Potter fan, let's open the Griffin door.
This is Griffin, the concept wheel loader from Volvo Construction Equipment. Having invented the concept of wheel loaders in the 1950s, Volvo Construction Equipment has been at the forefront of their development ever since. The Griffin Design Project continues that leadership by allowing Volvo's designers to look into the future and imagine the wheel loader of tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. The Griffin Loader is a futuristic Volvo concept wheel loader with a powerful body and excellent all-round vision. It's set to ensure that Volvo wheel loaders continue to be regarded as the very best in the world. Not just in terms of productivity, but also in terms of safety and environmental performance. Like all Volvo machines, it has the themes of the environment and the operator at its heart. Using an electric hybrid power source, Griffin produces very low emissions, and when hydrogen becomes commercially available, Griffin can be upgraded to a fuel cell power source. Both power units are more compact than the combustion engines they replace, allowing for a more streamlined engine compartment. Instead of heavy drive lines, Griffin uses electrical motors inside each wheel, allowing higher ground clearance and a super quiet machine. Not only is the Griffin cleaner, it boasts better performance too. Unlike diesel engines, electric motors have maximum torque from the instant they're turned on, and a regenerative power system means the batteries are recharged whenever the wheel loader breaks. It's been estimated that this system could lead to energy savings ranging from 20 to 50%. The operator environment, always a strength of Volvo CE machines, enters a new dimension with the Griffin. Views from the driver's seat are commanding in every direction, made possible by all-round glazing and lattice see-through pillars. The glass in the cab is intelligent, heating up in cold weather to prevent frost or condensation and becoming darker in bright sunlight. The level of comfort that Volvo cabs have long been famous for is maintained with the Extreme Care cab, with its light and airy environment and the latest seating and ergonomic controls. The traditional steering wheel is dispensed with, replaced by a multifunction joystick and all-electric controls. Getting in and out of the Griffin is also made easier and safer by the large swing-away doors. The Griffin looks undoubtedly futuristic, but its signature design embodies the very definition of what it means to be a Volvo. Even at standstill, the Griffin defies safety, efficiency, and strength. The lack of a traditional driveline and axles allows the adoption of intelligent independent suspension. This offers a more comfortable ride for the operator with fewer vibrations entering the cab, and also allows for variable ride height. The frame can be lowered for high-speed haul cycles, reducing the center of gravity and making speeds of up to 50 km per hour possible. The frame can also be raised, increasing ground clearance over rough ground and offering greater dump heights while maintaining stability. The independent nature of the suspension means that Griffin can work on uneven ground without unsettling the machine, the operator, or the load. The fact that the process is utterly smooth and controllable reduces operator stress and fatigue, all improving productivity. Electro-hydraulic actuators maintain lifting power, and energy recovery occurs on the down cycle of the boom. Stability is improved by up to 20% with the use of an extendable counterweight, allowing for an increase in lifting capacity, especially when working at maximum articulation. Some of the technology found on the Griffin is already under development or even being tested. This is a very real interpretation from Volvo Construction Equipment of what you can expect to see hard at work on sites in the future.
That film was made in 2009. Volvo had already envisaged a hydrogen-fueled future 14 years ago. 14 years. We've had some comment in the chat. Nigel Williams, good morning, Nigel. Thank you for being here. That lattice-pillared idea is genius. Totally agree. Dan Cullen, I think, is in agreement, wondering why they have not put those pillars on the shovels now. I don't know. Maybe they have. I mentioned yesterday there is one hell of a skunk works at the Volvo headquarters up in Eskilstuna. They may well be testing it as we speak. And let's not forget, that one looked very, very far-fetched. Interesting loading shovel, says Dan Cullen. Why didn't they make a concept model? That looked very far-fetched, but let's not forget that we've already seen at least 2 shows now. I think it was at ConExpo, and I'm fairly sure it was at Bauma as well. The wheel loader that Volvo designed in conjunction with Lego. Concept machine, but an actual living, breathing piece of metal. Morning, Jim. It's a wonder diesel-electric drive wasn't adopted by more manufacturers over the years. Wabco. Wow, there's a blast from the past. Wabco had it on dumpers a long time ago, and diesel electric locos have proved their worth donkeys years ago. All good points. What about the Lego one, says Ken Hatchett? Yep, just mentioned that one, Ken. Now, Nigel Williams has just said independent suspension to maintain stability when on side slopes is a game changer on stockpiles. As you saw on that machine, but also on the ADT that we showed you yesterday. That's something that the fine folks at Volvo were envisaging months and months and years ago. Now, before we draw a veil over the first ever outing of our new look show, we have something new for you. Hopefully this is going to become a regular feature. The Daily Gripe. You might argue that this entire show has been one long 3-year gripe, but we're now setting aside some specific time in the show for myself and all of you to share your current gripe of the day. For now, however, you can leave yours in the chat, or better still, you can actually record one to be played on the show. You can do that by going to speakpipe.com/demolition news. But for now, you can make do with one of my own. So, there's a petrol station about a mile away from my front door. If I'm limping home on fumes, having refused to refuel on the M25 or the A3, this petrol station is my go-to fuel stop, or at least it was. The petrol station in question recently introduced a new system on some of its petrol and diesel pumps. Now, this is not a pay at the pump system, which I love because it means I won't be tempted to buy bars of chocolate at the kiosk. This petrol station operates what I can only describe as a prepay system. So rather than filling up and paying, you have to go into the kiosk and pay in advance. They've clearly got trust issues, I guess. That's not the gripe. The gripe is this. A few days ago, I wanted to stop to top up the tank, so there was plenty of fuel for Mrs. Demolition News to run her errands. I popped in and I paid 30 quid for some diesel. I then went out to the pump and proceeded to fill the car. When the dial got to £29.30, it stopped, and it refused to put any more in. The machine had effectively shortchanged me by 70p. Now, I realise that this is probably a thimbleful of fuel, but 70p is 70p. So I went back in and I queued up behind half a dozen people and then had to get the 70p put back onto my debit card. Double the hassle for less fuel than I'd paid for. But it gets worse. When I got home, I mentioned this to my eldest son, who said he's used that same petrol station a few days earlier. On that occasion, the pump shortchanged him by exactly 80p. Because he was running late, he didn't have time to go back and queue up for his refund. So, is that the idea? Are they working on the basis that some people literally won't bother with the refund? Not that I care, but what happens to that in their accounts? They sold £30 worth of fuel, but they delivered £29.30. Is that not going to show up? Anyway, that's my gripe of the day, but I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? The Daily Gripes therapy session will return on Monday when we're back again. Now, before you go anywhere else, please don't forget that I will be back right here later on today for the second outing of our brand new construction equipment news show. Wherever you're watching this, tune in again at 1 p.m. today for details of the latest equipment from the greatest manufacturers in the field of demolition and construction equipment. Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second. I'm still leaping gazelle-like over into the chat. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. If you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for what is now known as the crack. And we don't have the outro anymore. Instead, we have a word from our key sponsor. Right, let me get the right screen layout. This is all new as well. You see, the orange is gone. There's a thing going on. It's all new, and I'm still learning where it all goes. Let's have a look in the chat. Well, let's have some music, shall we? Let me get back to where I need to press the button. It's Friday. Let's have a bit of funk in the background. There we go. Hope you can all hear that loud and clear. One thing I am noticing about the new microphone, I'm hoping I'm coming through loud and clear at your end. At my end, deafening. Absolutely deafening. I'm going to have to go into the back end and turn that down a little bit. Good morning. Ken Hatcher was the first person to turn up for the 500th show. I have a funny feeling he may have been the first person to turn up for our first show as well. Good morning, Ken. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna's here as well. Morning, Stick Note. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Steve Williamson is here as well. Good morning, Steve. I've just realised that's not the thing I should be playing. No, maybe it is. Maybe it's just rolling really slowly. Morning, Steve. Lou Carney's in the house. Speaking of Lou Carney, Lou has very kindly arranged on Thursday, next Thursday's show, we will have a guest, and that guest will be Rob Oliver of the C, or formerly of the CA, but very much currently of Plantworks. So if you've got any questions, queries, comments about Plantworks, be here next Thursday, because Rob Oliver will be in the house, and it's going to be worth a chat, because there's an awful lot of new stuff going on at our Plantworks, lots of new features there, lots of new demonstrations, a whole bunch of stuff. So tune in next Thursday, find out more from the horse's mouth. And sorry, Rob, I didn't mean that you have a horse's mouth. I'm just, Dan Cullen is here as well. Good morning, Dan. And there's me saying good morning, gang, and welcome to the show number 500. 500. And in absolute truth, it isn't even show 500. It's more like show number 700, actually. But it's 500 of this format. We did a morning show, we did an afternoon show, knocked off the rough edges, as you've probably seen from today. There's still rough edges, but we knocked off a lot of the rough edges along the way before we actually launched this back in February 2021. That can't be right. I can't remember when we launched it, but you get the idea. So yes, there's been 500 of these, but there was a couple of hundred of the other show that preceded this. Thank you very much indeed for that, Peter. Loving the new intro. Yeah, we worked long and hard at it. It's a funny thing. I've because Fred has created all of this fancy stuff, and I've seen them in isolation. So I saw the intro, and then a couple of days later, I saw the news thing and everything else. It's only when you watch them back to back you realise that it's just lots of pictures of me. I wish I was disappointed, but I'm not. I'm very vain, and I quite like watching myself. And there is Gary Muirhead. Gary, thank you very much once again. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys, and a happy Friday, everyone, and a happy 500th anniversary as well. Wow, love it already. Thank you very much indeed for that. There's Rob Thompson. Good morning to you, Rob. Thank you for joining us. Who else have we got here? It was Rob Thompson again. Looking forward to the new look. Hope you're enjoying it. Morning, Mark, says Mark Whiting. Congratulations on your 500th show. Shane, thank you for that, Mark. Who would have thought that whatever it was, 2 and a bit years ago, somebody would have said you'll still be doing this when you broadcast your 500th show? I would have laughed in their face. And yet here we are. Dan Cullen says, huge congratulations on the 500th show. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. And let's have a look. Mick Norton goes all posh. Is that right? Is that happy quincentenary? Is that right? To all at Team Anthony, thank you very much indeed. Fancy, like it already, Steve Williamson says. Speaking of Steve Williamson, we had a bit of a chat off air this morning via WhatsApp. Steve is planning a video series that charts his rise through the ranks from the wilds of Bonnie, Scotland to Las Vegas and all points in between. Steve, I can't wait to see that, and looking forward to sharing some of that on the show as well. Mr. Brock is in the house. Jeff Binion actually celebrated an anniversary of his own. I think it was a couple of days ago, was his 1 year anniversary at Brock. So congratulations on that, Jeff. And thank you very much indeed for your congratulations as well. 500th breakfast show, should I say. Congratulations, says Peter McKenna. New mic, new light sign. I'm glad you spotted it. Yeah, I don't want to be an anorak about this, but I watch a lot of other people doing live streaming, basically to learn how to do live streaming. I've always been envious of the fancy lights that they have. Well, I've had those for a while, and I've now got a new addition. Thank you very much indeed to Gary Muirhead. But the one thing that I've really hankered after was a fancy new mic, which I've got, but I also wanted a boom arm. I've always fancied a boom arm, partly because I type at the same place that I broadcast. So once this show is over, I can literally take that out of the way, clear the desk, and get on with some proper work or something. Nick Drew is in the house. Good morning, Nick. Nick, as everyone is probably aware, just fresh back from Finland, and probably loving English life once again. But Nick is also among the great and the noble that will be attending Plant Works this year. Looking forward to catching up with Nick then. Dan Cullen says, shared with others. Very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed for that. Jim Turner says, morning and happy 500th birthday. I look every bit of 500th birthday, don't I? 500 shows, well done and congratulations. Thank you very much indeed, Peter. You know, the funny thing about this is, obviously 500 is a landmark, but come Monday, it'll be 501 and nobody will give a toss, me included. Just another number, isn't it? But 500, I'm basking in the glory today. Fantastic new layout, loving the new look. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, just wonder what the issue is with this. That should be playing a video that goes through various bits and pieces. It doesn't appear to be doing that. No, it's not doing that. No idea why. So let's get rid of it. I'll go and hit that with a hammer after the show. Love the new tune, says Steve Williamson. Thank you very much indeed. Sounds familiar. Now that's amazing, Mr. Anthony. It looks spectacular. Thank you very much indeed. Should do a shareable advert for the show now. Yeah, that's a thought. We did. It wasn't a video-based one. We did actually do a couple of adverts way back when we were building the audience that we showed over on Facebook. Didn't make a great deal of impact personally, but I maybe that's an idea. Maybe that's something we need to put on the to-do list. Go away and come up with an advert that you guys can share among your friends. Morning Legend says Tristan Mays, Mr. Crane himself, over at cranehub.net. Morning Tristan, thank you very much indeed for being here. And when he says Morning Legends, I'm fairly sure he means all of you rather than me, but I'll take a bit of that. The sound is very clear. The new microphone has made a big difference. That's fantastic to hear. Have to say, I recorded the piece about the site deaths using this microphone yesterday, and listened back to it, and I listened to it with headphones on, and I was quite amazed at just the amount of difference it made. Because the mic that I was using, which I've still got to hand, this trusty old beast, was really good. Really good, highly recommended and sought after and everything else. But this one really is a step up. I think part of it is down to the fact that because it's on an arm, I can now get that bit closer to it, so you get the full richness of my baritone. Am I baritone? I'm probably not. There we are. Let's have a look. Lots more coming through in the chat. I just saw one from Stephen Guthrie, I think. That's one of the drawbacks of the new mic. We can hear you breathing now in Dolby Atmos. Funnily enough, there is, I wish I could show it to you, but there is a set of software that sits behind this microphone. This is called an Elgato Wave 3, and there is a set of audio software called the Wavelink, which allows me to adjust levels and bring in sound. And it does all fancy stuff. But this microphone is so sensitive that I actually heard my bathroom, or my bedroom in the ensuite is directly above. And my wife got in the shower this morning. Not only did I hear the water running, I actually heard her shut the shower door through the microphone. It really is that sensitive. So I shall have to be very careful with heavy breathing. Morning, guys and gals, says Stephen Guthrie. I knew he was here somewhere. Thank you very much indeed for being here. It's the same in every industry, not just construction and demolition. I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But really, and listen, I'm guilty of it. I've written thoughts and prayers with the family more times than I care to admit. And is that really all we've got? Is that our reaction? And I can't help but think it is desensitized. There was people of a certain age, and I'm not naming anyone in particular here. You might remember back in 1985, 1986, when the whole Live Aid and Band Aid thing happened, and there was an outpouring of support for the Band Aid record in support of the famine in Ethiopia. Then there was even more support, I think, for the Live Aid concert for exactly the same reason. But there was a concern among other charities in the aftermath of all that we might all succumb to what I think they described it as tragedy fatigue. In other words, we'd been so bowled over by everything that we'd seen from Ethiopia that we'd become numb to other tragedies. I don't know if that is still a consideration, but I do wonder if that's one of the issues that we have here in the demolition and construction industry. We don't, as an industry, I'll have to preface this because I want it to come across as I mean it. If one person dies in a year, that's one person too many. But we only kill somewhere between 30 and 40 a year. And I realise only is a disgusting thing to say, but I am trying to make a point here. But over the course of 30 or 40 per year, over a year, over 5 years, over 10 years, over a 30-year career, my personal belief is that we have become desensitised. We've become numb to precisely what that means. And even, I think we've even become numb to the fallout and the breadth of that fallout in the event of somebody dying. In the aftermath of Didcot, I talked about the four guys being somebody's father or somebody's son. Yes, they are, but they're also somebody's uncle, somebody's grandfather, somebody's brother, somebody's best friend, somebody's go-to in a time of crisis. That one site death will have repercussions among dozens, if not hundreds of people. So when they happen, thoughts and prayers is not the answer. We shouldn't be sad. We should be furious. There should be not oh, woe is me. There should be outrage, absolute outrage. Again, this is not aimed at the R. Collard group. As I mentioned in the video, I really do like Rob Collard. I have enormous respect for him and all that he's achieved. I've been on probably half a dozen of his sites over the years, and he does genuinely run a tight ship. I don't know the circumstances of what happened on this site in Slough, and I don't know what is being done to support the families. This is not about Rob Collard, but we literally earlier this week we were talking about the fact that it took a civil action to get support for a family of a guy that was killed at Longannet after they were initially handed, the company responsible was initially handed a £5,000 fine, which was an insult to just about everybody involved. Something needs to change. Something desperately needs to change. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it is certainly not thoughts and prayers or how sad. We should be marching through the streets demanding action. Where are the trade associations in all of this? Where is the health and safety executive in all of this? If that £1 million fine for the guy that was killed at Longannet was 10 million, it wouldn't make life any easier for his family, not from an emotional standpoint, but it might make people think a little harder about the way that they treated their workers. Yeah, as you can probably tell, a little bit angry about all of that. Great informative guy. Yeah, it was my mate Alan Shade, all the way from Ontario in Canada. And I have no axe to grind here. Grib paid us to do some work for them, as did a bunch of other companies. I said to Fred before we went, we are sending videos over to America, to China, to Japan, and across Europe. We've never had a bad debt. In terms of the video stuff that we do, we've never had a bad debt. We've always been paid. Some of the payment has been late. Some of it's been slow, but we've never had a bad debt. But Grib, when we walked onto the Grib stand, they asked why they hadn't had the invoice yet. We hadn't even done anything for them at this point. And then when we got back, even before we'd actually produced the first video, they sent us a reminder to say, send us an invoice. We want to pay it. And we've issued, I don't know, a dozen, 15 invoices, all linked to Conexpo. Who was the first to pay? Gripe. Good people to do business with. Good people, full stop. So thank you very much indeed to the team at Gripe. Better than man smells. I have no idea what that means. Yeah, Beardy rocks. Beardy does rock indeed. There's Nigel Williams. Good morning, Nigel. Now, again, I've wanted a microphone for quite some time, but I listened to a couple of Nigel Williams' recent episodes of From the Seat of the Cab over on all good podcast platforms and a few rubbish ones as well. And he recorded a few from home, and they sounded really good. Kind of edged me towards the investment in the new microphone. So thank you for that, Nigel. Sorry I missed the start of the all-new show. Not a problem. As I've already said, if you would like to, you can go back and watch it. Or, again, if you so desire, it will be on YouTube. It's on YouTube now, but once this show ends, it will regenerate as not a live show, but a recorded show. And one question, I don't know what time everybody got here, but you will know, or you will note, some of you will have spotted it. In our intro now, we actually named some of the regulars on this show. We'll be topping that up as we go along. But did you see your own name up in lights, anyone? Be interested if you could let me know. That lattice pillar is genius. I totally agree. A lot about what Volvo were doing. I mean, think about that. Think about that. They were preparing for a hydrogen-fueled future 14 years ago. We haven't even got hydrogen infrastructure yet, and they gazed into their Swedish crystal ball and they decided, yes, hydrogen will be the solution. It will be the answer, and therefore we need to prepare for it. No great surprise. Volvo are currently among the front runners to bring proper hydrogen machines to market, only a matter of time. And why is that? Because they had the foresight to start working on it 14 years ago, before most of us had even heard of the notion of hydrogen power. Jim Turner, I think we've already covered this one. It's a wonder diesel electric wasn't adopted by more manufacturers over the years. Wabco had it on dumpers. Who remembers the name Wabco? I certainly do, from back in the day. Independent suspension to maintain stability. Yeah, we've covered that one. Yeah, now, my gripe of the day, it is like the USA. You pay before you have the fuel. But in my experience, you pay if you go into a petrol station, a gas station, should I say, in America, and you pay $40. When you go out to the pump, you get $40 worth of fuel. You don't get shortchanged by $1.50. You get the amount that you paid for. That's not the case. Now, funnily enough, this petrol station happens to be a mile up the road, but I've actually driven past another one that is operating exactly the same system. It's a different organisation. It's not like this is a franchise thing. And what is the thinking behind that? And have you ever been into a shop? I should probably save this one for another gripe of the day. Have you ever been into a shop where, let's say you bought, I don't know, you bought your bar of chocolate or whatever it might be, and it's 99p, and you give them a pound coin back in the day when people actually used physical money, and the guy behind the counter says, "Oh, sorry, I've got no change." And so what? You want me to pay more for the product, more than is advertised, to pay because you've got no change? You can't do your job, so I pay more. On your bike, pal. And while we're about it, and because I'm on a roll and I'm enjoying the new microphone. Some years ago, I was in Sutton, which is a town, I don't know, a couple of miles down the road from here. Can't even remember why, because I'm not the world's biggest McDonald's fan, but I found myself in McDonald's, and I was stood behind an old lady, probably, I'm not going to guess her age, but she was probably late 70s, I would guess, and she had her granddaughter with her, and the pair of them had been to the cinema, still clutching a poster and stuff like that. Anyway, got to the front of the queue, and the little girl asked her grandmother for a Happy Meal. To show you how long ago this was, the Happy Meal at the time was priced at 99p. So a good few years ago. The old lady looked through her purse and came up with 97p. She was 2p short. And the spotty oik behind the counter said, "No, sorry, can't help you." And she said, well, you know, my granddaughter wants that, and it's only 2p. No, sorry, can't help you. So, like any considerate person, I gave the guy the 2p at the same time as telling him precisely what I thought of him. I won't repeat on air what I said. He didn't like it. I don't care. D6XE hybrid dozer offers 100% torque and impressive traction and pushing power at a fraction of the fuel use and ultimately cost. The loader has the perfect framework for electric motors. Yeah, I must admit, it's only now with hindsight. The D6XE was kind of ahead of its time, and when it came out, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess now, there was a lot of talk about it, and it was Caterpillar embracing electric power, which wasn't strictly true because it has a diesel engine. And I think at the time, certainly I did, and I think other members of the press did likewise. We talked about the tech, but we didn't actually talk about what an advance that was. And yet it is. It is, as Nigel describes it there, it is a hybrid. It's way, way, way more efficient, way more torque. Great thinking outside the box. Nigel Williams, 70p pint of diesel, you think? I feel very short-changed now. Oh, excuse me. Exactly the same happened to me in the USA, says Ken Hatcher. They said, do you want change? Oh, they said, so you want change, do you? Yes. Yes, it's my bloody money, fella. Pay at the pump is the way forward. Pay at the pump is probably the way forward, so long as you actually get what you paid for. And I'm not unique in noticing this, I'm sure. What is that thing where you pay at the pump? It doesn't matter if you pay at the pump, but you pay at the pump, right? So you put your card in, and it's authorised and everything else. And you squeeze the trigger, and nothing happens, and the counter starts. And it's only when you get to about 14 or 15p, I'm starting to sound like Ebenezer Scrooge here, but it's only when it gets to about 14 or 15p that you actually feel something going through the pump. Are you getting anything then? Are you? Can they prove it? Are we being ripped off? Well, we are being ripped off. It's just a matter of how obvious it is. Let's have a look. Daily gripe is guys not giving a crap about the equipment they operate and grease up and pre-checks, no idle warm-up or cool down in the evening. I sense that could be a running theme among the operators amongst us. I would imagine that is pretty common up and down the land. That's a gripe most of us have. Yeah, absolutely. Trading standards jobby, that. Yeah, do you know, this is doing my public image no good whatsoever. There's a really, I don't even know if it's there anymore, but back where I used to live, there was a really, really crappy, horrible corner shop. The guy behind the counter was generally on the phone when you went in there, and he'd ring up what you owed him on the till and then just point at it. Like, I'm not going to speak to you, you're beneath me, but there's what you owe me, now pay up, you know. So I went in there one day, fancied a can of Coke, and found myself a can of Coke. And while I was queuing up waiting for it, I was holding the can of Coke, waiting to slurp away, and it said on there, not to be sold individually. This is part of a pack. So I walked up to the front and got him off the phone. I said, this is part of a pack. You split a pack. You're buying this cheaper. I should get it cheaper. At which point, the guy, even though I'd been going in the shop for about 3 years at this point and speaking to him occasionally, he now decided he no longer spoke English. Funny that. And guys walking around the site like headless chickens and sitting on cabless dumpers while being loaded. Yeah, indeed. People that say GPS and tilt rotator make you less of an operator, shut the hell up. What planet are you on? My God. Yes, I actually produced a little video on that. Available right now in our WhatsApp group, should anybody be interested. Daily gripe. Mona's moaning. Peter McKenna, daily gripe. Mona's moaning when nothing will be resolved with said moaning. Oh boy, have you come to the wrong place? But thank you for that, Peter. You just improved my morning. Gaz Evans, one of the stars of Plantworks. We've already mentioned Plantworks once this morning, but we're going to mention it again because it is very, very close now. And yeah, Gaz Evans at Gem Attachments. Looking forward to see the collection of attachments he's going to have on display there. And I'll just remind you very quickly. Tune in next Thursday with Rob Oliver from Plantworks to tell you all about what's new. This is all new, obviously. He's going to tell us what's new at Plantworks. Right, Jim Turner says, my gripe, I should be writing these down. My gripe is that as soon as a problem gets to the point where an official body like the council or a government office, all common sense seems to go out the window and nobody will stick their neck out and make a decision that will make everyone's life better, safer and easier. As my LinkedIn post explains, bloody fly tippers again. Yeah, bloody fly tippers again. I'm going to say a very quick good morning to Ed Butler. Good morning, Ed. Thank you for joining us on the New Look Show. Hope you like it. Many years ago, I bought one of our houses off. Let me rephrase that. I bought a house. I don't have multiple houses, but I bought one of our old houses off plan. I basically bought a hole in the ground, watched it being built, moved in. So I was one of the first people to live in the place, got to know, the systems and everything else. And when people arrived, we were struggling to get post delivered. We were struggling to get ambulance services. We were struggling to get all manner of stuff. The roads hadn't been adopted by the local authority, so nobody was sweeping the road. There was no refuse collection. So ultimately, we among this new community decided to form a community association. Held a couple of meetings, and we decided that somebody needed to go and see the local authority and speak on behalf of that community association. And I was given the job. So I was named, nothing to do with me, I was named as chairman. So I went along, had a bit of a banter with the people. Anyway, 6 months go by, and I get a phone call completely out of the blue to say, we've seen you in action at these council meetings. Have you ever considered becoming a councillor yourself? They clearly don't know me at all because no, I can't imagine anything I'd like to do less, but they invited me along to learn the ropes. Now, bear in mind that the council position they were after me for was a Tory councillor. If anyone's watched this show for any length of time, they will know it doesn't really marry with my values. But I went along just to hear what the score was. Anyway, it was interesting getting a look behind the scenes. But then I said to one of the guys there, how does this work? Is this literally a democracy? And he said, no, it doesn't work like that. He said, you could come up with the greatest idea ever, something that would improve the entire town, which was Epsom at the time. It would improve the entire town. It would save the council money. It would be better for every single resident of the council. But if one of the people in this room decided they didn't like it, it wouldn't happen. That's politics for you, right there. Needless to say, I had no intention of becoming a Tory councillor in the first place. Had even less intention after hearing that. Watching on YouTube, as I'm a premium member, congratulations. You can watch video in the background. I was recording the next episode of the podcast when you went live and wanted to get it published, so YouTube was top. It's a matter of priorities, Nigel, and quite clearly you have your priorities wrong, putting yourself above me. No, you have your priorities absolutely right. And sometimes that's just the way it is. I was due on a Zoom call the other day, and I was sat here uploading the video. Funnily enough, it was the one I talked about that's over on WhatsApp at the moment. And the Zoom call had to take back seat because when you're a content creator, as Nigel Williams is, you have to create. Morning Sexy Beast. I can only assume that is aimed at Ed Butler. Loving the new look, Mark, and congratulations on the 500th show. Keep them coming. Yeah, think about that, right? So 500 shows has taken us about 2.5 years, I would guess. So, roughly 2026, hopefully, we could be doing the 1,000th show. Will I still be there? Will you still be there? Interesting to see. Let's have a look. Steve Williams says, morning, love. Thank you very much. No, that's from Ed Butler. Morning, love. In Spain, They're on to filling station fiddles, says Nick Norton. All filling stations are obliged to carry out a probe test if a customer asks. The simple procedure involves putting a regulated test tube with fuel from the pump and checking that the numbers match. Charging for more fuel than is being pumped into the tank in Spain is considered a serious crime of fraud and carries very steep fines. Do we have that here? Has anyone ever heard of that being done here? I haven't. The music sounds like the soundtrack for the Snatch movie. Love it. Yeah, one of the things, and I haven't got around to it yet, we've just upgraded our copyright-free music package, and I was playing around with it last night. I am going to have some new music for this part of the show, but listen, I'm feeling funky and frivolous today, so that's why we've gone with this. So glad you've got rid of voice to text on Facebook Live. Have I? Don't think I have. Morning, Mark. Bit late, but never mind. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. That mic is good. Can hear Fred going to the bathroom. You probably could. Steve Williamson, don't fart too loud. I'm clenched as we speak. Better late than never, pal, says Peter McKenna. No, absolutely better late than never on everyone. If your forthcoming trip to Italy involves both yourself and Fred, you might become known as the two gentlemen of Verona. Bill Shakespeare refers. Yes, well, you may have noticed every time I've mentioned the Samota trip, I have referred to it as Fair Verona because that's what one does. Do you think you'll ever get an interview with Natalie? Who's Natalie? I really hope you do. Who? Gary, I must be having a bit of a brain fart. Who is Natalie? Please let me know. I was talking to a mate about that incident. They couldn't believe it happened. But like we say, a company can have the ultimate safety conscious culture, but it's on the guys to maintain it every step. Yeah, it is. And would I go so far as to describe Rob Collard as a friend? No, I wouldn't. He's an acquaintance. He's somebody I know through business, but somebody I really do like spending time with him. Not into motor racing, although he does a lot of that, but a genuinely nice guy. I don't know about the size of the site. This is in Buckingham Road in Slough. I don't know about the size of the site. I wonder if Rob Collard has even been there. Because that is the power of delegation, isn't it? You take on people to manage site safety and things for you. But Rob Collard is now facing, quite possibly, a run through the courts for potential corporate manslaughter. He doesn't deserve that. I don't think anybody deserves that. Particularly, as Nigel has just said. You can put in place all the safety procedures that you possibly can, and one lapse of concentration or one person doing something stupid and it all goes wrong. Should that really be down to the MD or the owner of the company? Don't believe so. Lou Carney has just said no about something. I don't know what she's saying no to, but she's forthright about it. If Grib are that keen to pay you, it will almost certainly mean they'll be a sort of a manufacturer that'll bend over backwards to give brilliant after-sales service to their customers. Proper folk. That's one of the best comments I've heard in quite some time. You can tell a lot. Listen, we're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars here, so it's not that big a deal. But yeah, you genuinely can. And we arrived at the Grib stand on the proper opening day of the show. We'd been there in the show the day before, but we actually arrived on the first day of the show, which off the top of my head was the Tuesday. We went to see them. And we, as I say, greeted with, why haven't you invoiced us yet? Blah, 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 blah. The show actually marked the anniversary. I think it was the 20th anniversary of Grib. And they said, if you have a chance, can you come back and film us celebrating our 20th anniversary? And they'd been so hospitable, so welcoming, so nice that we said, yeah, what the hell, we'll come back. So we went back a couple of days later. And, they delivered the champagne to their dignitaries by excavator bucket, and everyone was quaffing champagne. And then one of the guys, one of their main guys there, decided to give a speech, and he was, congratulations to Grib, congratulations to all the people that work at Grib. Thank you for all your hard work, and a special thank you to the team at Diggers and Dozers for choosing to spend time with us. He didn't need to do that. Didn't need to do that at all. I was pleased to be there. That's the Canadians for you. And it's good a few other people. But I'd literally already predicted that the Canadians would be the first to pay. Lo and behold, they were. Just so you know, I realise there is a degree of anti-Chinese sentiment in the world. The second to pay were the Chinese. And when we worked with them at Balmer, they were the first to pay. Criticise them at your peril. Some larger stations now take more than they should on prepay for fuel, which is leaving people without money in their accounts for basic supplies, including bread and milk, etc. Shouldn't be happening with how fast electronic banking is nowadays. Yeah. And what's the idea behind actually having to queue up twice? You queue up to present your debit card, which prepays the pump. You then go out, you're shortchanged, so you then have to queue up again to get the money put back on your debit card. It's at best sketchy, at worst, it's theft. Theft, I tell you. Prepayment to prevent fuel thefts. The cost of fuel is very high and the cost of living has hurt a lot. Do you know, I was once stopped. I borrowed my old boss's car. And I was once stopped driving down towards the coast on the M3, pulled over, and it was a navy blue Sierra I was driving. It shows you how long ago it was. And the police stopped and said, have you recently filled up with fuel? And I said, yes, I have. Did you pay for the fuel? Now, this is back in the day when I religiously collected receipts so that I could wave them under the nose of my accountant. So I said, yes, I absolutely did. Opened my wallet and gave it to him, and the guy checked it. He said, oh, sorry, mistaken identity. I said, why? What? He said, oh, somebody's just been into the petrol station back up the road, and a car matching your description drove off without paying. A navy blue Sierra. When this happened, there was probably 1 million navy blue Sierras on British roads. I happened to be the one that got pulled over. When nothing seems to happen at the pump, it's fume exchange, supposedly. Is it? Is that what it is? I have a pair of boxer dogs. They're quite big on fume exchange. I won't bore you with the details. Come on now. My gripe will be this Sunday as all the silly sods running around the Isle of Dogs and causing the usual chaos. Yes, it is London Marathon time, isn't it? Now, I think, let me go back. Right, okay. So, Gary Muirhead was talking about Natalie. Natalie is actually the sister of one of the guys that was killed at Didcot. As you know, thank you for clarifying that, Gary. I was due to go to Wales about a week ago, just over a week ago, actually. And Natalie went very quiet on me, and I've literally not heard from her since. I've sent her messages on Instagram, which is how we first got in touch with each other. I've sent her a message on Facebook. I've sent her a text message, and I've phoned her as well. And I can't get an answer. I can only hope that she's okay. My disappointment at the interview doesn't matter a toss. I just hope she's okay. I hope I didn't. I hope that my impending arrival didn't send her into a bit of a tailspin. I can only hope. My biggest gripe is costing up jobs, spending a few days going through everything to get it right, never hearing back from the customer after they receive it. Yeah, and I think there's even worse than that, I think, in the contracting side of things. You imagine, I've mentioned this before, I did speak to a demolition company of some repute a few years ago, and they had spent best part of about 18 months trying to earn a place on a demolition framework, big demolition framework, worth hundreds of millions of pounds. And the guy said that they'd actually gone back and done the maths, and he reckoned that it had cost him, or cost his company, more than £1 million just to make it onto the framework. There will have been companies that will have invested a similar amount of money that didn't make it onto the framework, so that's lost money. And even this guy did actually make it onto the framework. That still meant there was no guarantee of work. As it turns out, they did okay out of it. But to invest £1 million up front with no guarantee of work, and then as Gaz has rightly said, not just literally never hear from them again. Sorry, old state of affairs. As a nation, the UK is very poor at complaining, unlike the Germans who excel when shortchanged. Yeah, quite right. And I realise I'm about to say one of the worst cliches in the world. It's not the money, it's the principle of the thing. Being shortchanged by, somebody not paying you your 1p back. I've got to tell you, I don't want 1p pieces. I've got a jar full of the damn things that I do need to do something about. I don't want them. I don't want them in my pockets. I don't want them in my house. I don't want them at all. But the very fact that somebody just goes, we haven't organised our till properly and therefore you're going to pay extra. No, absolutely not. If you can't organise your business, how about I have my can of Coke for nothing? How about that? Same sort of thing, isn't it? As you can tell, the gripe of the day has legs. It is going to... it's probably going to be the longest part of the show, I think. We'll be doing more. We'll be back on Monday, obviously. I am going to be back this afternoon at 1 p.m. for our Construction Equipment News Show, outing number 2, if you can join us for that. Wherever you're watching this, I'll be back here at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Thursday next week, we'll be back doing this with Rob Oliver, and then obviously Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday we'll be doing this anyway. So Monday next week, if you've got a decent gripe of the day, please let us know what it is, because we would love to share it with all and sundry. You can send us a message, obviously, but we would love nothing more. And we've had a couple of people use it, but not enough. Leave us a voicemail over at SpeakPipe. So speak as in speak, pipe as in smoke a pipe. .com/demolition news. Just go on there on your mobile phone, go on there on a computer, record us a message with your gripe of the day or anything else you'd like to share with us. I can grab that as an MP3 and then I can actually play that on the show, and I would love to do so. So get your gripes queued up, get your comments about the show, get your anything. I don't care. We are here to provide a service. We are nothing if not listeners here at the Breakfast Show. Right, that's it. That's the 500th episode in the can. Hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And I did. I'm kind of loving the new look and the new feel, particularly loving that, because that one little flash just kind of makes it real, doesn't it? Live on air, and I am. And I will be live on air again, as I say, in 2 hours. I haven't even written the show yet. That's a worry. I'll be back in 2 hours, and I'll be back on Monday. Everybody go and have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic weekend. Even if you are in the Isle of Dogs and there are people running past your house, regardless of what happens, try and have a good weekend. Until I see you again, all the very best. Cheers.